Imagine this, you're driving down a dark back road at midnight, when suddenly the trees close in around you. A forest so silent, so heavy, it feels alive. But here's the terrifying part, people enter these woods every year, and many never come back. These aren't just campfire tales. These are real forests in the United States, places drenched in tragedy, mystery, and secrets that no one has ever explained. And the question is, what's really hiding in there? Stay with me, because tonight I'm taking you inside the top 5 haunted forests in America you should never visit. And listen, if you want me to bring you more stories like this, the ones that keep you awake at night, make sure you hit subscribe right now, and drop a comment telling me which haunted place I should cover next. Imagine driving down a lonely back road at midnight, the kind where the trees lean in so close they swallow the headlights, and the silence feels heavier than sound itself. Now imagine stepping out of the car, walking into that forest, and realizing, you are not alone. Across the United States, there are forests that locals whisper about but refuse to enter after dark. These aren't just stories to scare children. They are places drenched in history, tragedy, and things that cannot be explained. The first is the Hoia of America, deep inside California's Redwood groves. Towering trees stretch hundreds of feet into the air, but there are clearings where nothing grows, circles of dead earth where compasses spin and voices echo without a source. Hikers speak of shadow figures moving between the trunks, always watching, always following, yet never seen head-on. One family vanished in those woods in the late 70s, only their tent and fire pit remained, untouched, as if they had stepped into thin air. Then there is the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, infamous for the legend of the Jersey Devil. A winged creature said to stalk the endless pines, screaming through the night sky. But locals know it isn't just about the devil. Strange lights dance between the trees, glowing orbs that drift silently, luring travelers deeper until they lose all sense of direction. Entire towns once thrived in the Barrens, glassmakers, farmers, lumberjacks, but their ruins now sit abandoned, rotting in silence. Why did they leave so suddenly? Why does the air still carry the stench of sulfur after rain? In Massachusetts, Freetown State Forest is said to be cursed ground. Native tribes once warned settlers never to disturb it, but they did, and blood was spilled. Today, the forest is home to countless unsolved crimes, from ritualistic circles of bones to missing hikers whose bodies are never found. Walk its trails at night and you'll hear footsteps behind you, crunching in the leaves, but when you turn, the path is empty. Police refuse to patrol certain areas after sundown, claiming their radios die the second they enter. Farther west, in Oregon, the Tillamook forest hides an unspeakable secret. Loggers whisper of a phantom fire that burns without flame, leaving behind the smell of smoke but no ashes. In the 1930s, wildfires destroyed whole towns in that region, but old men claim some of the dead never left. They say you can hear their coughing, their screams carried by the wind, and if you see the orange flicker between the trees, do not chase it. Those who do are never seen again. And finally, in North Carolina, the Croatan forest, tied to one of America's oldest mysteries, the lost colony of Roanoke. Legends say the spirits of those colonists roam the woods, searching for the lives they never had. Locals report ghostly figures in colonial dress drifting silently through the fog, and eerie carvings in trees that weren't there the day before. Hunters describe waking up to find the word Croatan scratched into their rifles, their tents, even their own skin. Every forest has its story, but these 5 hold something darker, something alive. People vanish, time bends, the air grows colder than it should, and deep inside you feel the truth. That these woods do not want you to leave. They say the trees themselves are guardians, ancient and vengeful, holding secrets buried long before the United States was even born. Step into them, and you'll notice it. The silence. Not the calm, peaceful kind, but a silence that presses against your chest, as if the forest is listening, waiting. In the Pine Barrens, hunters speak of gunshots that echo endlessly, bouncing back with no origin. In Freetown, travelers describe headlights suddenly cutting out, batteries drained dry, leaving them blind in a tunnel of trees. And in Tillamook, campers tell of waking up with soot on their clothes, their throats raw from smoke, though no fire was ever lit. The strangest thing? These forests don't just scare, they call. People find themselves drawn back, over and over, as if the woods plant something inside them. An itch, a whisper, a hunger. Families move away, swearing never to return, yet years later they're found parked at the trailhead again, staring into the black pines as if answering a voice only they can hear. Some believe it's the land itself, cursed by blood and betrayal. Others think it's something older, something not of this world. But ask anyone who's stepped too deep into these forests, and they'll tell you the same thing. The moment you realize you're being watched isn't the most terrifying part. It's the moment you realize you don't want to leave. And that's when the forest changes. The trails you thought you knew twist into shapes you've never seen. The map in your hand no longer matches the ground beneath your feet. Landmarks shift, trees seem to lean, and suddenly you are walking in circles, no matter which way you turn. People describe hearing their own names whispered, not in a stranger's voice but in the voice of someone they love. A mother calling her son. A husband calling his wife. It feels so familiar, so safe, until you remember you are alone. In the Croatan forest, campers say the fog rolls in without warning. Thick, heavy, and blinding. You take one step forward and everything disappears, the world, the sky, even your own sense of time. Some never find their way back out. And those who do return with blank eyes, unable to speak of what they saw. Local sheriffs keep their files locked away, but everyone knows the stories. Children vanishing on school trips. Hikers found days later, clothes torn, barefoot, mumbling in languages no one understands. Hunters stumbling onto ancient symbols carved deep into trees that bleed sap like fresh wounds. And yet, the forests remain. Quiet, patient, waiting for the next traveler to wander just a little too far from the path. Because once the woods decide they want you, they never let you go. Some who make it out speak of gaps in their memory, entire hours missing like a reel of film spliced and torn. Others return with marks they cannot explain, scratches down their backs, bruises shaped like hands too large to belong to any living person. In Massachusetts, one park ranger swore he followed a child's laughter deep into Freetown's trees. He thought it was a lost camper. But when he found the clearing, the laughter was coming from the trees themselves, echoing in 1,000 directions. He never set foot in the forest again. Oregon loggers still whisper of the night the phantom fire roared. Men fled the woods, swearing they saw silhouettes of burned figures moving within the flames, reaching out. The ground was blackened when they returned the next morning, but there had been no official fire, no record, no cause. Only the smell of smoke lingering in the air for weeks. And in the Pine Barrens, truckers who drive through at night sometimes see figures at the edge of their headlights. Not the Jersey Devil, not a monster, but entire families, dressed in clothes from another century, standing silent among the trees, staring as the trucks pass. The deeper you listen to these stories, the more one question grows impossible to ignore. What if the legends are not just tales to scare children? What if the forests themselves are alive, feeding on fear, drawing people in, one by one? Until it's your turn to hear the whisper in the dark? And when that whisper comes, it isn't loud. It slips between the leaves, soft as breath against your ear, so quiet you almost mistake it for your own thoughts. But you know it isn't. It tells you to keep walking, deeper, just a little further from the path. That's how it begins. In the Croatan forest, a hiker once left his group to follow a voice calling his name. They searched for hours, then days, finding nothing. Weeks later, his boots were discovered hanging high in a tree, laces tied in knots no human hands could have made. In the Tillamook, an old prospector vanished after telling neighbors he'd found something in the woods, something buried. All they ever recovered was his journal, pages smeared and torn, the last words barely legible, *, it's not gold. It's eyes. *. And in the Pine Barrens, residents swear the forest moves. Roads don't lead where they used to. Trails open and close like doors. Whole clearings vanish overnight. One hunter claims he marked a tree with an axe, returned the next morning, and found his mark on every tree in sight. The stories always end the same. the forest takes what it wants. But the question that lingers, the one no one dares to ask aloud, is simple. When you step into those woods, how do you know they haven't already chosen you? Because sometimes the signs are so small, so ordinary, you don't even notice them. A sudden chill on a warm summer night. A shadow that lingers a little too long at the edge of your vision. The way the wind dies when you step past a certain tree, as though the forest itself is holding its breath. People laugh these things off, until they can't. In Freetown, a man swore he heard his dog barking deep in the woods, even though the dog had been dead for 10 years. He followed the sound until sunrise. When he finally stumbled out, his clothes were torn, his skin covered in scratches, and he couldn't remember his own name for hours. In Oregon, firefighters responding to smoke in the Tillamook forest found an entire section of trees burned black in perfect circles. The ground was cold, untouched by flame, yet the smell of charred flesh was so thick some of them vomited on the spot. None of them ever spoke of what they saw moving in the haze. And in North Carolina, hunters still talk about the night they found the word Croatan carved freshly into the bark of an oak. The cuts were dripping, not sap, but blood. You tell yourself these are just stories. Myths. Urban legends. But then you hear it. A branch snapping behind you, slow, deliberate. And suddenly you realize, the forest has been listening all along. Your chest tightens as the sound echoes through the trees, heavier than it should be, as though something vast just shifted its weight. You freeze. No birds, no insects, not even the whisper of wind. Only that silence, thick and suffocating, pressing against your ears like water. Then another sound, closer this time. A dragging. Something moving against the forest floor, slow, steady, purposeful. People who've heard it say it's not an animal. It's too measured, too heavy, as if the ground itself groans with every step. In New Jersey's Pine Barrens, a group of teens once swore they saw lanterns swaying between the trees, bobbing like pale yellow fireflies. They followed, thinking it was another group of campers. But when they reached the clearing, the lanterns weren't in anyone's hands. They floated in the air, moving in circles. And standing beneath them were shadows, dozens of them, staring with hollow, white eyes. In Massachusetts, one woman claimed she heard her father's voice calling her from deep within Freetown. The problem was, her father had died years before. She followed anyway. Hours later, hikers found her at the base of a ravine, staring blankly upward, lips moving as if in prayer. She never spoke again. And in North Carolina, some say if you wander Croatan too long, you'll see writing appear on the trees around you, words you don't understand, words that shift and crawl as if alive. If you touch them, you vanish. The dragging sound comes again, now impossibly near. You tell yourself not to turn, not to look. But the forest is patient. It knows curiosity always wins. And when you finally turn, it's never what you expect. Some say they see nothing at all, just darkness, trees, and the suffocating sense that something enormous is crouched just beyond sight. Others claim they catch a glimpse of movement, a figure darting between trunks, impossibly tall, its limbs bending at wrong angles before slipping back into shadow. But the most terrifying stories are the ones where people see someone they know. A child, a friend, a lover, standing in the dark, silent, unmoving. Their face pale, their eyes wide and unblinking, as if they've been waiting. When you call out to them, they don't answer. They only raise a hand, beckoning you deeper. In Oregon, a hunter swore he saw his brother, who'd died in a logging accident years earlier. The man followed, tears streaming down his face, until his flashlight died. Search parties never found him. In New Jersey, 2 hikers returned from the Barrens shaken, insisting they had seen a crowd of people standing in a clearing, men, women, children, frozen like statues, all staring upward at the sky. They turned to run, but when they looked back, the clearing was empty. And in Massachusetts, one boy was found wandering the edges of Freetown at dawn, barefoot and shaking. When asked what happened, he whispered only 3 words before collapsing. They're not people. Some believe they're echoes, souls caught in the trees, replaying their last moments again and again. But echoes don't reach out. Echoes don't leave footprints. Echoes don't whisper your name. Others claim there's something older than memory itself. Not ghosts. Not demons. Something born of the forest, wearing borrowed shapes the way bark grows over stone. They lure you in with what you trust most, a familiar face, a loving voice, until you step too far, until the path back is gone. In Massachusetts, rangers once found a camera half buried in the dirt of Freetown. The film showed a man hiking alone, smiling, waving into the lens as if making a diary. The final frame was different. He wasn't alone anymore. Behind him, a shape loomed, tall and faceless, its arms stretched toward his shoulder. The ranger who developed the film quit that same day. In North Carolina, a search team looking for a lost hiker reported seeing torches in the Croatan night. Dozens of them, swaying deep in the fog. The team approached, calling out. The torches vanished, but their radios picked up whispers, hundreds of voices, layered over one another, speaking in a language no one could understand. And in Oregon, smoke jumpers fighting a blaze in Tillamook swore they saw a wall of figures standing inside the flames, untouched by the fire. Men, women, even children, staring out as though the inferno was a window, not a cage. Every story ends differently, but the question is always the same. If those things are not people, then how long before they stop pretending to be? And maybe that's the part no one wants to say aloud. That the shapes in the smoke, the faces in the trees, the voices calling from the dark, maybe they don't just want to trick you. Maybe they want to become you. In New Jersey, there's a story of a hiker who came stumbling out of the pine barrens after being missing for weeks. At first everyone was relieved, until they noticed he wasn't quite right. His eyes didn't blink in sync. His voice lagged behind his lips, like a bad recording. By the next morning, he was gone again. Only his clothes were found, folded neatly at the base of a pine. In North Carolina, an old fisherman swore he saw a woman walking along the Croatan shoreline at dusk. Her dress was soaked, her hair plastered to her face, yet she moved as if untouched by the tide. When he called out, she turned to him. Her mouth opened, wider than humanly possible, and from it came not a scream but a chorus, 100 voices overlapping in one breath. The man never set foot near those waters again. And in Oregon's Tillamook, some campers tell of looking into the fire at night and seeing shapes flicker in the flames. Not random shadows, faces. Their own faces, staring back at them, mouthing words they couldn't hear. One camper smashed the fire pit to put it out. The next morning, the ashes had been rearranged into the outline of a body, arms stretched wide. The forest doesn't just watch. It studies. It waits. And when the moment comes, when the silence is too deep, the shadows too close, the voice too familiar, how will you know the thing standing in front of you isn't already wearing your skin? Some say the safest way to survive these forests is never to enter them at all. But what about the ones who already have? Ask the locals, and they'll tell you the same thing. Every missing hiker, every vanished camper, every lost child, they don't just disappear. They become part of the woods. The forest doesn't waste. It keeps what it takes. That's why, when you walk the trails at dusk, you might hear footsteps mirroring your own. When you call out, your voice may echo back with a delay, just a little too sharp, just a little too strange, as though someone else has borrowed it. And if you ever find yourself staring between the trees, convinced you've seen a figure watching, don't look too long. Don't let it notice that you've noticed. Because the truth is simple, and it's the same in New Jersey, in Massachusetts, in Oregon, in North Carolina. The forest doesn't care where you come from, or how far you've traveled, or who you think is waiting at home. Once it chooses you, there is no path back.